Check their tickets again. They don't belong here. The head attendant's command sliced through the cabin, louder than the engines outside. Security was radioed. Passengers leaned forward, and a black couple stood cornered in first class as whispers of fraud spread like fire. Phones recorded, smirks widened, and humiliation pressed in from every side. But while the crew thought they were ejecting two pretenders, they were seconds away from discovering the truth. This couple ran an airline bigger than the one they served. The boarding gate buzzed with chatter, the smell of jet fuel seeping faintly through the glass windows. At the front of the line, Daniel and Camille Lewis handed their first-class tickets to the attendant. The scanner beeped green. The couple smiled, ready for a quiet flight. But the head attendant, Ryan Carter, narrowed his eyes. He leaned forward, lowering his voice just enough for passengers nearby to hear. "You two sure these tickets are yours?" Daniel frowned. "They were purchased directly through your airline." Ryan's smirk was sharp. "Strange. First class is reserved for our premium flyers. Your profile doesn't match." Passengers shifted uncomfortably. Some chuckled. Phones rose discreetly, already recording. Camille's voice was steady. "We paid for these seats. Are you suggesting we don't belong here?" Ryan's smirk widened. "Exactly. Step aside while I call security." The words cut through the terminal. Whispers erupted, passengers muttering, "Knew it," and figures. Daniel and Camille stood frozen, dignity hanging by a thread. Minutes later, security arrived. "Problem?" one guard asked. Ryan gestured dramatically toward the couple. "Yes. Fraudulent passengers trying to sneak into first class." Gasps fluttered. Phones zoomed closer. Daniel handed over the tickets again. The guard scanned them, green, valid. But Ryan shook his head. "The system can be fooled. Take them aside until we sort this out." The humiliation was now public. Mothers covered their children's ears, as though scandal were contagious. A teenager whispered into his live stream, "They're getting kicked off first class." Finally, after endless stares and smirks, the guard shrugged. "Board them. If there's an issue later, we'll handle it." Ryan's jaw clenched, but he relented. "Fine. But they won't last long in my cabin." The couple settled into their seats, but peace never came. Ryan hovered like a hawk, his tone dripping with disdain. Drinks and menus arrived for every passenger, except Daniel and Camille. When Daniel politely asked for water, Ryan barked, "You'll get what's left when it's left." Passengers snickered. One leaned across the aisle, whispering loudly enough for others to hear. "First class isn't for everyone, you know." Camille's hand trembled slightly, but she stayed composed. Daniel touched her arm. "Let it go," he murmured. "Not yet." Ryan returned with a fake smile and a new insult. "Sir, your credit card came up for verification. Mind showing another? Just to be sure." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "You scanned it at check-in. It cleared." "Humor me," Ryan said loudly, ensuring the entire cabin heard. Laughter rippled. "Can't even pay for his own seat," someone muttered. Camille inhaled deeply, then quietly pulled out her phone. She tapped a single button. A red light blinked. "Protocol witness activated," she whispered. Every word, every insult, every sneer was now streaming live. Ryan didn't notice. He leaned close, his voice sharp. "Don't cause trouble. I can have you both removed mid-flight." Camille looked him in the eye. "You'll regret every word." 2 hours into the flight, the humiliation peaked. Ryan loudly accused them of being disruptive, threatening to hand them over to airport police upon landing. Passengers cheered him on, eager for a spectacle. But then Daniel's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, then passed it to Camille. She smiled faintly. Ryan noticed. "What's so funny?" Camille stood slowly, her voice calm but resonant. "What's funny," she said, "is that you spent the last 3 hours humiliating the CEOs of Aerion Airways, your airline's biggest competitor." The cabin froze. Ryan's smirk vanished. Passengers gasped. "CEOs?" someone whispered. Daniel rose, pulling out his ID. "Daniel Lewis, co-founder and chief executive officer, Aerion Airways. This is my wife, Camille Lewis, co-founder and chief operating officer." He held his phone high. The line was still active, and right now, we're on call with global aviation regulators. They've been watching this entire live stream. Camille gestured toward the blinking light. Millions of people are watching your arrogance right now, and they'll remember it when Aerion takes your market share. The silence was deafening. Ryan stammered, his face pale. I didn't know. Daniel's tone was cold. You didn't care. You saw our skin, not our status. You saw your prejudice, not our humanity. Camille added, you thought you could strip us of dignity, but you just stripped yourself of a career. By the time the plane landed, the story had already exploded online. The live stream had racked up 2 million views. Headlines flashed across every network. Airline crew humiliates rival CEOs in first class. And discrimination at 30,000 feet. Corporate scrambled. Within hours, Ryan Carter and the crew members complicit in the abuse were fired. Investigations revealed systemic bias across the airline, resulting in $50 million in fines and lawsuits that crippled the company's reputation. But Daniel and Camille didn't stop there. They launched the SkyBridge Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to fighting discrimination in travel. Millions were pledged within days. Their humiliation became the catalyst for global change. At a press conference days later, Daniel addressed the world. They thought humiliation would erase us. Instead, it erased them. We don't just run an airline, we run a movement. And no one will ever tell us again that we don't belong. Camille stood beside him, her voice firm. Remember this. Dignity denied is power reclaimed. And tonight, we reclaimed it for everyone who's ever been told they don't belong. The crowd roared. Flashbulbs erupted. Reporters shouted questions, their voices drowned by the applause that thundered like a victory march. Daniel raised his hand, signaling calm. This isn't just our story, he continued. It's the story of every traveler humiliated in silence, every voice ignored, every person treated like they didn't deserve a seat at the table. Today, we end that silence. Camille leaned toward the microphones, her tone cutting and resolute. The airline that mocked us will fade, but the foundation we've built will last. We will turn every insult into opportunity, every humiliation into reform, until no one ever has to live stream their dignity to prove they belong. As they walked off stage, the world no longer saw victims. They saw leaders rewriting history at 30,000 feet. They tried to humiliate them in front of the world, but truth turned humiliation into history. If this story hit you, smash the like button now. Share it so millions more see what happens when dignity fights back. Comment your city and the moment that shook you most. Then subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next story of justice will be even louder.